Live. Greetings, everyone, from the basement. I want to introduce my great friend, Sam St. John, for joining me tonight. We're going to have a big Dylan discussion here on one-on-one featuring. So right now I got a bit of homework to do here. So, Sam, hopefully you'll chat for a second.
Well, greetings to the droves of people that are currently waiting in the wings. I will, for anybody that is watching, I will apologize in advance for the voice and for the potential nose blowing and getting up to get an extra cup of coffee. I've had a cold for about 2.5 days and took the day off work. So this is my first real effort of the day with Glenn. But no, I'm excited about this. The good thing about Dylan is that I don't have to do a lot of prep because he's just always in the back of my mind. So to talk about him at length is something I love to do. Especially with Glenn, who was around, seeing like Rolling Thunder and all that stuff on tour.
Hi, Marcia. Marcia's in the house.
And this is kind of neat too, because for those that have followed Glenn from the beginning, our first set of videos revolved around Bob.
Yeah. Sam, you look so healthy, and Glenn, you look fine too. Thanks.
Yeah.
Well, when Alex looks in the mirror and looks at what he's got to look at, we must look like pictures of health.
Well, Alex doesn't have any mirrors in his apartment. He told me. But no, it's cool because our first 4 or 5 videos revolved around Dylan turning 80. We did our 80 favorite Dylan songs. Again, this was 2021 during COVID, and here we are 3 years later almost talking about them again. So
it's crazy. Cool. Yeah, we've come full circle, Sam.
Well, I hope it's not the end of the circle.
The Salmon and Glenn Funkel show, the Cosmic Torpedoes, whatever you want to call us, we're there.
I don't know what you want to call us. Don't call us anything bad in the chats, please.
Well, don't say it out loud anyway. You want behind our backs.
Yeah.
And you got the Sam Zimmy. He's Sam Zimmy St. John.
Indeed.
You don't have to call me Zimmy.
Yeah, you got to serve
call me Zimmy.
He doesn't say that line much anymore because I've seen him 2 or 3 times now on his current tour, and I mean that he completely changes those ending verses now.
Let me ask you: are you planning on going to any of the upcoming shows?
I wish. I mean, all the ones close to me are in North Carolina, but they're all 3 hours plus, and they're all on work nights, and I don't think I can swing it.
Yeah, I'd love to, but I just can't. I mean, it cost me enough money to see him last year at Massey Hall, so I'm out. I would love to. If I was like a rich guy, I would just go and follow him, or I would be like a Dylan head and just go every night.
I'm interested to see what the set list looks like. If he's gonna, I mean, it's obviously been the same, but he did switch out from the first leg to the second leg. He did switch out a few songs, and he was doing those Dead tunes for a while. Which by the time he got down to Virginia, he had stopped doing that and had reverted back.
Yeah,
which was a little disappointing. But
he did Stella Blue when I saw him
on your pee break though.
Yeah, on my pee break. I walked away. And then I said to my nephew, Jack, and going, geez, he didn't do any Dead songs tonight. I'm kind of disappointed. And Jack's sitting there. He didn't, as much as he knows quite a bit about the Dead, he didn't know the song Stella Blue. He just thought it was a Dylan song he didn't know.
Oh, yeah, some bootleg deep cut.
So anyway, let's get started here. Now, I got something I want to read that I took some notes, and this is pretty awesome. If you say you don't like Bob Dylan, after you hear this, you might at least respect the man. So he was born on May 24th, 1941. So he's 83 this year.
83.
Yeah. Wow, incredible. Anyway, 43 official albums, including Shadow Kingdom, which came out in 2023. He's in his 7th decade of his recording career. He's been called a poet, an author, a prophet, the voice of a generation, a protest singer, a plagiarist, an artist, a Jew, a born-again Christian, a traitor, and a genius. There's probably many more. He's won 10 Grammy Awards, an Academy Award, and a Golden Globe Award. He's inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, the Nashville Songwriter Hall of Fame, and the Songwriters Hall of Fame. He's been awarded a Polar Music Prize from the King of Sweden, a Kennedy Center honoree from Bill Clinton, Presidential Medal of Freedom from Mr. Obama, and a Nobel Prize in Literature. Over 600 artists have covered his songs. Over 1,500 covers of approximately 300 songs, from Jimi Hendrix to Flatt and Scruggs and everybody in between. So if that's not,
It's a
tell
testament.
anybody else who has those accomplishments.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't think. And he was, and as James says, let's not forget
The highest honor.
the highest honor. He was a Wilbury, and he was in. He was part of the We Are the World.
He was in We Are the World,
which is kind of very topical now because of the documentary on Netflix. Have you seen that documentary yet?
I don't have Netflix. I don't have the subscription, but
well, you know, you can go on Netflix and get a cheap subscription for $6 right now with commercials.
Oh, really?
And they only charge you, and they only show a commercial about once every 45 minutes. It's only like 10 seconds long.
Oh, okay.
You could go and sign up for that, watch a couple of documentaries, and then cancel it. Wouldn't even cost you $6.
I know I need to. I know Matthew Street did a video about it.
Yeah. Oh, it's really cool, especially the Dylan part.
Yeah.
It's really good.
Cool.
Yeah. Derek's here. Not sure how long I can be on. Well, Derek, we appreciate you being here regardless of how long. He was also a Wilbury. Honors from Clinton and Obama. Wouldn't be bragging. Well, I guess James must be a Republican, so we'll leave that alone. Okay. So my first questions to my guests on this are always going to be the same.
Oh, I'm the guest.
What interested you in even looking at Bob Dylan's music? Or
yeah, it's well, it kind of goes in a couple different directions. I mean, to mention what James said about the Wilburys, I mean, I've done videos and I've talked about it before on the streams that we used to do. That first Wilburys album opened me up to, a ton of music, just starting with the guys that were in the group and then merging into all of their influences and everybody that they, and had contact with. And obviously Dylan being one of the 5 guys. I think I underappreciated his work in the Wilburys at first. I was, like 8th grade Sam, which is when I got into that record. But then over time, really listening to songs like Congratulations and Tweeter and the Monkey Man really started gaining a big influence. And I had a teacher in high school, in my sophomore year of high school. He was a big Dylan head. He was a Dylan and a Deadhead. And he was a younger guy. He was probably about the age that I am now. About the time, I didn't know how old he was. And we had an assignment where we were talking about songs and the interpretations of songs, and he wanted to start the conversation, so he pulled out the song "Ring Them Bells" from "Oh Mercy," and listened to it, loved it. I at that point started really getting into the Sarah Jarosz cover version of it, who I know we both love.
Beautiful cover.
She's an Americana artist, probably a couple years older than I am. She has a great version of Ring Them Bells, again, from 1989's Oh Mercy. That was the first Dylan album that I bought, was Oh Mercy, about a year after that assignment. And from that point, I was hooked on stuff. My dad made me a mixtape from Napster with some Dylan songs on it that I listened to. Obviously, I was getting into both of the Wilburys records, and then really started getting into Dylan. And the first Dylan album that I bought new was Tempest in 2012. That was the first album I bought when it was released. And ever since then, I've bought all the Dylan albums as they've come out. And then obviously I've gone back and got everything else, just, sporadically here and there in no particular order. So in a nutshell, between the Wilburys and then that teacher, his name was Jeremy, with his kind of pushing Oh Mercy, that was it for me. That was the beginning.
Awesome. Do you have any recollection of hearing a specific Dylan song before that? Like that would have been the first Dylan song you ever heard? Or
other than the Wilburys stuff, probably. Oh gosh, maybe. I know my dad was really big into funny enough, like the song "Spirit on the Water" from
Okay.
Modern Times was an early one for me. I don't remember hearing a lot of his like folky stuff or like a Rolling Stone or any of that
Oh wow.
early on because the radio stations that we were listening to, well, I was at that time was like classic rock radio, so I was hearing
Mhm.
like all like the Guns N' Roses and
So you might
Zach
have heard
Bryan.
all on the Watchtower or something, maybe
I
Hendrix.
could have,
Mhm.
or even Tambourine Man. I
Yeah.
mean, I knew the Bird stuff and like stuff like that. It Ain't Me, Babe, maybe might have been an early one, and probably not even the Dylan version. Probably the
Yeah.
Turtles, but some of that stuff early on. But one of the ones early that I remember specifically was "Spirit on the Water" by Modern Times,
A great song.
which I would have been in fifth or sixth grade.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's
which is
very
funny because you
cool.
think of that as a newer Dylan song, but that song is
Yeah.
keeping up on 20 years old.
Yeah. Rod, the happy
Hey,
hippie is
Rod,
here. Hey, Rod.
big Dylan
Trish
fan.
is with
Hey,
us.
Trish.
Dan. Dan's always with us. We're waiting for Bob to show up too.
He's in the wings. Yeah, we're putting him on hold.
60s and 70s, Dylan is the best in my opinion. I don't think many people are going to argue with that.
Mm-mm.
First time I heard Dylan was in like fourth grade. My older sister had his first album, and it was like nothing else I had heard in
Wow, the first one.
short life. Yeah, wow, that's crazy. I had when I was in public school, probably grade 65 was really when that I'd heard "Blowing in the Wind" because Peter Paul and Mary had a hit of it. It was on the radio, and I might have heard Dylan's name, but I'm not sure. But that song was, I mean, it was a pretty powerful song.
Yeah.
And you definitely were aware of that. But really, it was the time around like a Rolling Stone hitting the radio and the Birds doing Mr. Tambourine Man. That was kind of it. I still remember looking at the back of that first Birds album, Mr. Tambourine. They get the picture of Dylan standing with the Birds.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
still
Yeah.
really remember that photo really being the first image of Dylan that I had in my head.
That's a good. So let me ask. I'll reverse it then. Like, do you remember the first time that you saw him in person on
First
stage?
time I saw him was 75 on the Rolling Thunder tour.
Do you remember just being like the anticipation building up to that? Like,
Oh my God, yeah, I was, yeah. I tried to get tickets to see the Dylan and the band thing, but that was the first time that you couldn't line up and buy tickets for a concert. You had to send in a self-addressed stamped envelope, and they had a lottery pick for
wow,
tickets.
gosh,
You didn't know if you were getting tickets until they mailed you something saying you got tickets, and I never got anything. So unfortunately, I didn't do that, and I wasn't. I didn't have any money at the time to actually go and buy a scalper's ticket or anything. So, yeah, it was Rolling Thunder was the first time I was able to get a ticket, and I went both shows, and that's really one of my favorite live shows ever.
oh yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's like me. I mean, the first time I saw him, and I've told this story too, was I guess 10 years ago this year. My dad and I saw him in Richmond, my junior year of college, and specifically remember we were sitting in the balcony, and the second song he did was "She Belongs with Me," and that's when he first pulled out the harmonica, and he's standing on the stage. That was when he was wearing his big white bill hat,
Oh
um,
yeah,
and,
yeah,
and the harmonica started playing, and it was just like I was like, oh, that's him. And then like the light hit the mic, hit the harmonica, and just
yeah.
shone right on my face, like because like the reflection of it. And I was like, that's a reflection coming from Bob Dylan's harmonica on my face. So it
Really, that's pretty cool.
was like a little kiss on the head from Dylan.
Yeah, yeah, that is. Interesting story. My good friend Tim owns Zap Records in Coburg, Ontario. Around Thanksgiving, Neil Young and Daryl Hannah came into his store, and he excitedly called me after they were gone and told me that. So then, Neil's been hanging up around here a lot. He has a home, Mimi, Ontario, which is probably about an hour and 15-minute drive from where I live, and that's where he was born, and he maintains a home there and comes up quite often, I guess. So he was here through Christmas. And guess who his house guest was? Bob Dylan. Bob Dylan and Neil Young were, because my buddy had calls from friends he has up in that area and everything, that Bob and Neil were seen antique hunting at all, because there's all kinds of antique stores and stuff all the way up the roads up there, and they were antique hunting together. Bob came and stayed with Neil all through Christmas. Can you imagine standing there and going, "Who are those guys? Bob Dylan and Neil Young?" That would have been crazy.
That's wild.
If I would have known at the time, I would have been driving all over the Hell's Half Acres.
Like, here's the
in
stalker.
every antique store I could find. But that's pretty cool. Anyway, let me get caught up here, and then we'll get on to our thing.
Yeah, I'm gonna pour my coffee. So forgive me for walking. It's helping with my throat.
Hi, Trish from Thank. Also have Dylan's Greatest Hits Volume 2 on vinyl. Oh yeah, that is a great. I love Greatest Hits Volume 2.
Oh yeah, I
It's
do
got
too.
songs on it that, like Watching the River Flow and
You Ain't Going Nowhere is on
You Ain't
there.
Going Nowhere and stuff that was just not
I
available.
Shall Be Released is on there too.
And Dylan played goal for the Canucks. I think Thatcher Demko can play goal for the Canucks. In high school, I borrowed a friend's mom's copy of Greatest Hits, and it was like every song is great. Yeah. I heard Joker Man first on a music video. Infidels was my first Dylan album. I think that might get mentioned later tonight. Are there any musicians who don't like Dylan? I don't know. I mean, I there might be musicians out who don't like Dylan, but I bet you there's not too many musicians who don't respect him. Cardboard Head Guy, Derek Robbins. The only live concert I watched him in was Concert for Bangladesh. Oh yeah, he's great on that. I love that performance.
That whole side of Bangladesh is one of my favorites.
With Bend Over and your Bob and Neil. I don't know. Oh, Happy Hippie. Okay, there we go. So we're going to do two things tonight. We are going to, I asked Sam to pick 7, or we kind of decided together. We're going to pick 7 the albums that define Bob's career in whatever way we think that through. And also pick 7 songs, only one from each decade of 7 decades. That was really hard.
If you didn't know in the chat, Bob Dylan has over 100 songs.
Yeah, a few. At least 102, 103.
At least
for sure. I didn't know who Dylan was until I heard cover tunes by Jimi Hendrix, Johnny Winter, then Nice, and then I bought his Greatest Hits album.
I'm sure a lot of people.
Wow. Very cool.
Early on.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, like I said, over 600 artists have covered his songs. It's amazing. Oh, Jason has joined us. I think we know that guy.
It's about time, Jason.
Yeah. Jason will be appearing in one of these episodes upcoming. I think we're going to do a blues thing together. So anyway, let's get started. 7 career-defining albums. What's your first one, Sam? We'll see if we match because we don't know what each other chose.
No, and we were kind of talking before the stream started that there are your standard albums that were career defining, and again, I have plenty of those. I'm sure Glenn does, but then there are a couple of surprises I would say that show up. But the first one I think is a no-brainer. Obviously, somebody mentioned here, or it was Rod mentions here in that first album from his sister, which for people that know Dylan know that first album, other than 2 songs, are cover songs of old blues and folk tunes that he did, including he does House of the Rising Sun on there, things like that. But the second album is the first career-defining moment for Bob Dylan. That's the Freewheelin' Bob Dylan. This is the album. It is 13 tracks of original material. It's got that famous artwork with him and Sarah Lowndes on the front.
Isn't that his girlfriend?
Please check your
Susan Rotolo, excuse me.
Susan Rotolo, yeah.
Yeah, excuse me. But this, I mean, the strength of the songs, first of all, this album was 1963. He's 22 years old. So just think about 22-year-old Bob Dylan. I'm 29. So 7 years younger than me. He's writing songs like the opener, Blowing in the Wind, the civil rights anthem of the 60s. Then he goes into the heartbreaking Girl from the North Country. Beautiful songwriting. Then he goes into the politicized Masters of War, which is just like 1, 2, 3, and you've got 10 more songs after that. Then you kind of have a couple of not low points, but songs. You have Down the Highway, Bob Dylan's Blues, and then you finish off A Hard Rain's Gonna Fall. Again, just these like surrealistic lyrics. It's even like that song is even kind of a taste of where he would go with his kind of stream of consciousness lyrics, even just a couple years later. Then he's got the beautiful little ballad, Don't Think Twice, It's All Right. Skip ahead, you have Oxford Town about Oxford, Mississippi. Karina, Karina, Honey, Just Allow Me One More Chance, which is kind of like a funny little cute tune. And then I Shall Be Free. But the fact that this is just a man on guitar and harmonica with these songs, this is this album that kickstarted his, Voice of a Generation moniker, which he doesn't like. He still hates it. Because he just said, he was writing songs and he was carrying on the folk tradition of like Woody Guthrie and Lead Belly and guys like that. But the fact that you go from an album of a bunch of covers with that picture of him looking like a baby with baby fat, that self-titled Bob Dylan album, to then you go straight into this the next year.
Yeah.
You're talking about a jump. I mean, the Beatles had jumps. I mean, you had, something from, Rubber Soul to Revolver to Pepper. But this might beat some of those Beatles jumps just in terms of the writing that came out of this guy just a year later. I mean, he was obviously playing in all the folk clubs at this point. Nobody knew who Bob Dylan was really still at this point. But this is the album that made a lot of people in politics and civil rights movement take a look and say, ooh, music from these kids, this is saying a lot more than the music of the 50s. This is when music started to mean something and was trying to get a broader point across than just, dance at the high school prom. So I'm going to go with my first record, Freewheelin' Bob Dylan. First career defining moment for Bob.
I'm not going to argue with you, Sam. I mean, this is a no-brainer. That's the one to start. I mean, you think how influential this album too. Most musicians talk about hearing this. This is the first one they heard. Like the Beatles had this album. They were playing it. I don't know which one of the Beatles introduced it to the rest. I can't remember.
I think it was John.
Yeah, and they devoured this album, and it totally changed them.
Yeah, it did.
You could arguably say the Beatles might have stayed a kind of a I love you, you love me type of band.
Pop band, yep.
If it wasn't for Bob Dylan.
That's a good point. I mean, you hear a song like, You've Got to Hide Your Love Away on Help, 65.
Yeah, it's John pretending he's Bob.
And then Rubber Soul, I mean, good grief.
Yeah, the whole album's like pretty much an acoustic album. Yeah. And then and John puts Norwegian Wood on there, and then Bob does covers Norwegian Wood on Blonde, but does it as, what is it, obviously Five Believers? I can't remember the song where you took me in, you never wasted time.
Yeah.
Where he uses the same melody and music for Norwegian Wood and kind of says, yeah, I can do Beatles stuff too.
Fourth time around.
Fourth time around, yeah.
Yep.
So, just an incredible album. Like I said, Blowing the Wind was kind of the first thing I'd ever heard of Bob Dylan's music. And, Girl from the North Country, which is eventually he did with Johnny Cash on Nashville Skyline. I mean, some of the powerful songs like Masters of War, Hard Rain's Gonna Fall. And these songs still stand up today with what's going on in the world today. A Hard Rain's Gonna Fall could have been written this morning.
Oh yeah.
It's just incredible. What a mind the guy had. It's unbelievable.
And again, 22 years old.
And like you said, how he jumped from not really writing his own songs, covering other people's folk songs, and kind of stealing from Eric von Schmidt and Dave Van Ronk and all the folkies who were around that he was absorbing, and to sitting down and writing all this stuff. It's mind blowing.
It is.
It's almost like Robert Johnson selling his soul to the devil and all of a sudden becoming this great, incredible blues guy.
Yeah. Yep.
Who did Bob sell his soul to develop that in a year, pretty much?
It's insane.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. Number two.
This is
a match again.
This is probably one that we're not going to match on because I went with a transitional album between Freewheeling, and where like his next big change was. So I'm going to go with the last of the original Bob Dylan guitar and harmonica records. I'm going to go with Another Side of Bob Dylan.
Okay.
And the reason I did is because this album was the first, probably his first polarizing album, which we should say Bob Dylan was polarizing from the beginning, but with like the vocals and like, you know, he's not a good guitar player. He's not a good harmonica player, whatever you want to say about him. But this album, a lot of those early folkies, like those hardcore folkies, were saying he's writing pop tunes. He's just writing pop tunes without a band, essentially. I mean, because the first song on here is All I Really Want to Do. Doesn't really have any deep message with it. It's just, you know, it's him saying, you know, all I really want to do is baby be friends with you.
That album's kind of him protesting being called a protest singer.
It's him. And the crazy part, again, we're just a year removed from Freewheeling with this record. Chimes of Freedom. That's one of the more, you know, political songs on here. So there is some of that protest music that he was known for. But he's also got To Ramona, which sounds like it could have been on Blonde on Blonde. Honestly, lyrically, it sounds like it could be on Blonde on Blonde. My Back Pages, which that's like the big protest against being the voice of a generation, where he says, I was so much older then, I'm younger than that now. That's a top at least 10 or 15 Bob Dylan song ever for me. It didn't make my list for later. And then obviously the Byrds would cut it a little bit and make it into a fantastic folk pop rock song with those jangly guitars with Roger McGuinn. I Don't Believe You, which is a wonderful little tune. I love the melody of it. It's one of Bob's most melodious songs. I mean, Dylan, again, is not really known for writing a catchy tune necessarily, but that one's very catchy. There's a great version of that song, by the way, by Glenn Campbell. If you've never heard it, there's a great version of that. Yeah, early on in the 60s.
Wow.
And then it closes with It Ain't Me, Babe, which obviously, you know, Johnny Cash would cover. You know, a bunch of people in those 60s, you know, groups.
Turtles.
Didn't the Turtles
cover It Ain't Me, Babe?
Yeah. Turtles had a big hit. So musically, it's you know, it's just Bob and the harmonica. I think there might be some piano on here, but again, it's Bob doing everything. There's no band. But what I like to tell people is, like, you know, people that say, oh yeah, he's a protest singer. Bob was really only a protest singer on those first 3 records. I mean, even that first album wasn't really politically charged, but Freewheeling, Times They Are Changing, and then a couple of songs on here. But after that, Bob went pop, rock, and then he, you know, obviously transitioned into a bunch of the other records that we'll talk about later. But this is one of those underrated transitional albums of Bob's career. This is a big change because the lyrics were very much, again, that stream of consciousness, kind of surrealistic style, but keeping with the instrumentation of those early folk records that he had put out. So number 2 for me is Another Side of Bob Dylan.
Interesting choice.
Yep.
Bob never wanted to be a protest singer, and he tried to shun that so much, that label. Like he would just, you know, he was writing topical songs of things that were happening in the world. Like he wasn't really protesting anything.
Yeah.
It was the college crowd and everybody that took it.
Yeah. Yep.
And used those songs as anthems.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, I'm going with a more obvious choice. I really like your choice. That was interesting. Bringing It All Back Home, because this is when he kind of dipped his toe in the water of electric rock music. He made half the album an acoustic album to keep, I think, people happy. And it would have been interesting if he would have electrified those songs on side 2 of this album.
For sure.
But yeah, I mean, Subterranean Homesick Blues, which I always call the first rap song.
Yeah.
Maggie's Farm. I mean, this is right around the time. This is 60. Did this not come out late? Is it 65, right?
65.
65. Yeah.
65.
But most of these songs were probably written in 64, late 64, probably into 65. And this is when he, around the time he hit the stage at Newport, and blew everybody's mind, electrified. And It's got some classic Dylan songs, like I said, Homesick Blues, Maggie's Farm, Love Minus Zero, No Limit, Mr. Tambourine Man, Gates of Eden. Now, Gates of Eden was the B-side on the next album, like a Rolling Stone was on Highway 61, and Gates of Eden he picked as the B-side for that.
Strange.
And I remember buying Highway 61, then going, well, Gates of Eden isn't on here, like a Rolling Stone. And then I looked back and went, oh, it's on this album.
Oh, yeah.
Go back and get that one. Yeah, but yeah, this is a pretty important album and might be arguably the father of folk rock.
Yeah, I would say so.
Yeah,
because the Byrds' first album was '65 too.
Yeah,
Mr. Tambourine Man.
Those tie in, like right, Dylan around this time and the Byrds, what they were doing. That's pretty much like splitting the atom right there.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's their Oppenheimer moment.
Yeah. It wins all the awards.
Yeah. Number 3.
Well, I'm going to carry on the conversation with Bring It
Oh, wow. You picked that. Okay.
So again, obviously this is the album that came out right after Another Side. So yeah, I did go with it because I couldn't do this list without talking about this record. I mean, obviously this is Bob Dylan Goes Electric, like you were saying. That first side is just nonstop. Again, cool stuff. Again, like I mentioned, She Belongs to Me will always forever, for me, remind me of that first time I saw Dylan with the harmonica. Subterranean Homestead Blues with that great opening scene from the Don't Look Back documentary with the cue cards and everything, with Allen Ginsberg behind him. It's just a crazy, crazy album. And I wonder if it was intentional that he put a picture of him and Joan Baez on the rear, just to kind of draw those acoustic folk people to buy the album. Because like, ooh, there's Joan Baez playing acoustic guitar and harmonica, so maybe she's on the record.
Or do you wonder if Bob even had control over that stuff at that point?
It's hard to say because I mean he was pretty much indebted to Columbia right now. And again,
that'd be an interesting question to ask him if you ever had a chance to interview him. Say, how much control he had at that time in his career.
Well, like we mentioned, we have him in the wing, so when we bring him back up for the second hour, then we'll ask him. But this is one of those albums too. A lot of those early albums, Dylan did the liner notes as well, and they're very you have to read them a few times to really figure out what he's talking about. But that second side, I mean, just like that.
How many times do you think you have to read him? Because I still don't understand what he's talking about.
Yeah, that's true. Maybe you need to do other things to understand him. But I mean, Mr. Tambourine Man, that started the Byrds' career off with the folk rock movement. It's All Right, Ma, one of my favorite lines, of sometimes the president of the United States must have to stand naked. One of my favorite Bob Dylan.
Powerful line.
That's a top 5. And that would always get a huge cheer, especially when he does it on the Before the Flood album with the band. That just gets this huge cheer because it's so true, because we're all people at the end of the day.
Yeah.
But again, great stuff on here. Dylan rocks. I love his vocals on this trilogy of records, with Highway 61 and Blonde on Blonde. But yeah, this is the one that started it all for that sound. So I agree with you on that one.
Wow, very cool. Geez, used up 3 out of your 7 choices just in the first 4 albums.
I could have picked a lot of Dylan records. Every single one of them is a transitional album.
Yeah.
In their own way.
That's crazy.
You can't say that about AC/DC.
No, you can't. Okay. I was blown away by his guitar playing as 1972 folk cover album, As Good as I've Been. I really like that album. Do you like those albums?
Stay tuned.
Okay. I think he didn't want to be Voice of a Generation because it was dangerous and get him killed. Yeah, you never know in those days, I guess. After what happened to President Kennedy, did Bob have a Barbie moment?
No, he just stayed with Oppenheimer.
No, I don't think Bob ever wore pink that I'm aware of, but he could have.
I don't think so.
Okay, so what was that? Number 2? You've gone 3? You've done 3 now?
Yeah, because I started the round. So
I'm jumping right up, Sam. 4. I'm jumping right up here. Mid-70s.
Wow.
My next career-defining album would be Blood on the Tracks.
My favorite Dylan record.
Because I think it was maybe not important to us listeners as it was to his career, because I think after um, Self Portrait and New Morning, which I mean, Self Portrait was really put out because he wanted people just to leave him alone. He was hoping to put out a bad record that
It was an
people would
intentional
like.
move. Yeah.
Yeah, and so he could just live a reclusive life and not have fans driving him crazy. And then he did come back with New Morning, which isn't a bad album actually. I don't think it gets a lot of love in
I
the,
love it.
but there's some great songs on there. And then from then he did Planet Waves and did the tour with the band. So it was kind of historic in that regard. But coming back and coming out with Blood on the Tracks, which many would say is his greatest album.
Yeah.
I mean, it's if you looked up singer songwriter in the dictionary, Blood in the Tracks there should be a picture of this album there.
Yep.
I mean, the songs are introspective, and they just define singer songwriter. A lot of it was based on his divorce, and I think it wasn't Jacob Dylan said that
he can hear both of us. He can hear his parents on that record.
Yeah. So yeah, I just think this is an incredible record, and catapulted him back up to the top after a few years, probably from, you could arguably say, Blonde on Blonde to this album. Just put him back up to that level again.
Oh yeah.
So that's my choice as number 3.
I would agree with that.
Here's a trick question. What Dylan album cover shows Dylan holding a cat? There you go.
This one.
Blood on Tracks was a return to form after several so-so albums. Yeah, you could say that. Although I kind of like the albums that are so-so albums, but so I hate to say there's
because I mean you have to consider the so-so albums are John Wesley Harding, New Morning.
Yeah, if your so-so album's John Wesley Harding, which is one of my favorite Dylan albums, then you're doing pretty good.
Yeah.
It's all relative to his catalog.
Yeah.
But if you put those albums against other people's catalogs, they're not so-so albums. They're great records.
Right.
Yeah. Okay, Sam.
All right. Well, I'm going to, believe it or not, I'm sticking to the 60s for one more record. And for those that know me, know this is one of my favorite Dylan records, and that is Nashville Skyline. This is, I can't imagine. I don't know if you have memories of first hearing this, Glenn.
Mm-hmm.
But for those that know, his voice, this is not the Bob Dylan of those albums that we have shown previously, even, for before or since. He claimed that he stopped smoking to get this like really smooth country croon. He's kind of singing from his throat. And this like soft voice. I mean, the back cover, there he is with Johnny Cash, who, like we mentioned earlier, that the first song on here is Girl from the North Country, which was on the Freewheelin', but a very cool country version with Johnny Cash during some jams that they did. And apparently that was the only song that was good enough to make a final cut, even though there is a mistake in it. When you hear it, Dylan gets his own words wrong.
Yeah.
But it's Bob Dylan's shortest record. You have, that, and then you go into this little instrumental, Nashville Skyline Rag, To Be Alone With You, which is a great tune, which he's doing live now, which is kind of interesting on the Rough and Rowdy Ways tour. I Threw It All Away, a beautiful song. Peggy Day, which is kind of like this like lilty little song. Lay Lady Lay, which was I think that was a top 40 hit.
Big hit.
You also have One More Night, which is one of my favorites, covered by one of our favorites, Tony Rice, much later on. Because I remember I first played that song to my dad, the Dylan version. My dad kept going. He's like, I know that song. Why do I know that song? And I was like, it's Bob Dylan. And like we were looking online, and I finally found it. I was like, oh, Tony Rice did it. And he's like, that's why I know it.
Wow.
But Tonight I'll Be Staying Here With You closes it off. But just, it's Dylan going country. He's got a great set of Nashville studio cats playing on it. You have the liner notes with the rear cover notes done by Johnny Cash. And this was when Dylan went on the Johnny Cash show as well. And it was kind of Johnny Cash showing like the straight-laced country fans at the time, saying like, hey, these younger up-and-coming people, that are 10 years younger than me, they know what they're doing too. and they a lot of their music has a voice, and what can be said with country music. And so I know Dylan was incredibly nervous to play because that show was at the Ryman Auditorium where Johnny filmed that show in 68, 69. And that's great footage of Dylan singing I Threw It All Away on there. And then they do Girl from the North Country together. And you can see Dylan is just very much like, like, thank you, sir. Like, how are you, sir? He's like a little kid meeting his hero.
He's referential to Johnny for sure.
But Nashville Skyline, did it alter Dylan's career in a way? Not really. I mean, his sound didn't really necessarily change as a result. But I mean, at this point, you had groups like the band and Clapton were doing more acoustic kind of stuff.
I didn't have to introduce people like my age to country music more. Like, I don't know if I was listening to any country music.
Probably, yeah, because this would have come out a year after Sweetheart of the Rodeo by the Byrds, which is also straight ahead country music. So it kind of was showing, you don't have to.
Again, it's all kind of intermingled,
right?
Over a period of a year or two, right?
And like I'm sure, I think this album also probably had some effect on groups like the Eagles that would come along in the 70s, and the Michael Nesmiths, the Graham Parsons, like that country sound by rock musicians. I don't even want to call it country rock because this isn't even country rock; it's a country record. But by these guys that weren't necessarily from the South could still put out a country record from their point of view, coming from California or Minnesota or wherever they're from. So I had to go with Nashville Skyline. It's a very monumental record in my opinion.
And you didn't mention my favorite song on the whole album, Nashville Skyline Rag.
Yeah, I did. I said it's the second one. It's the
I love that instrumental.
I think
played that on the banjo. It became kind of like a bluegrass staple
because he did it with Earl Scruggs. In the early 70s.
That's right too. Yeah,
that's on the
version. Yeah, it became something I learned, and
it's on the box set.
Yeah, it's got a great melody to it. It's I guess that's probably Dylan's first instrumental, right? Because he did Wigwam on Self Portrait.
Yeah,
I don't know if there was one before then.
Because Pat Garrett was later.
Yeah,
with all that stuff, it might have been.
Yeah,
it could have been.
Yeah,
at least studio versions, anyway.
Yeah, great track. Wow, that's very cool. Nashville Skylines. It's a great pick. I think it was a defining moment for his fans more than for Bob, maybe. Like just, like the big change in the vocals was like when you first heard it, you just went, "Holy!" That's amazing.
And he wasn't really touring at that point. I think. I mean, that was when he did the Isle of Wight with the band and the Beatles in the audience. But
very cool. And you got to remember, at the time there was no advance notice of these things. I mean, this album just come out of nowhere. It's just on the shelf.
And I know, like, the joke is like that's the closest that we ever saw to Dylan being happy was on that cover of him kind of and again, it makes it,
it's almost like howdy, folks.
Yeah, it's like that's all, folks. But yeah, this was Glenn. I mean, it's funny because I look at that. He's a year younger than I am. I'm like, wow, he's done all this and he's younger than me. So
that's amazing. You think about that. From 62 to 60, when that come out? 69?
69.
Yeah. 7 years. That you talk about what the Beatles did in a 7-year span.
They don't talk about Dylan the same, but he did. Yeah.
And I don't know if there's any other artist could say that.
No.
Besides Dylan and the Beatles.
And ABBA.
Yeah. Nashville Skyline is kind of the opposite of career defining, more like career altering, and went from being over pretty good though. Yeah. Yeah. Good point. There are a bunch of Nashville Skyline outtakes, unreleased songs.
Yeah, you got the Traveling Through
set. Yes, a lot of Johnny Cash stuff. That's what the one is, Johnny Cash.
That's such a great set. It's like a disc and a half for him and Johnny Cash.
Yeah. Check out Traveling Through set. It's great.
There's a few remnants on the another Self Portrait as well.
Here's a new name for me, Mustafa.
Hey, how are you?
Welcome. Traveling Through and the 1969 50th anniversary set of Nashville Skyline alternates.
Yep.
It is just frustrating. So you can sing, do it all the time. Then I am a fan of Bob Dylan's vocals.
Yeah.
I never ever said he couldn't sing. I love the way he sings on every album. I think he's one of the greatest singers of all time.
For that reason, is that it's a different voice really on every record.
Yeah. You like the sound of his voice. I don't know if there's another singer who can portray the emotions that he can portray in a song. I just think he
Yeah.
gets lyrics across like that's the way he does it. I mean, and it's effective.
Well,
I
it probably comes into play with all the stuff that he's read too, because he's very well read. And so
yeah,
he's soaking all these things, and he wants to play these different characters with his vocals, just like
yeah,
all the novels and the historical
yeah.
books that he's read.
And he plays with the timing of a song too. Like sometimes he's just a little late with the last word, or just a little early, and it's just always really effective. Like it's just he's he knows what he's doing. It's not.
Oh yeah.
What is 3 Dylan songs you wish you wrote? There'd be like 400 of them.
Yeah. Give me any of them.
Yeah, man. Well, let's save that answer because it might come up. We're going to discuss our favorite song from each decade. So some of those might come up there, Cardboard Head guy. So save that question for about another 20 minutes. Good evening, all.
Hey, Joe.
Oh, how are you? Nice to you to join us. Thank you. So next for me, maybe career altering works for this one too. Career defining. At the time, it was career defining for him, but I'm going with Slow Train Coming. I mean, this kind of came out of the blue and was, I don't know how well received he was as a born again Christian, if you want to call it.
Yeah.
I don't know how this went over. I mean, he was playing smaller. I mean, when he came to Toronto, he played Massey Hall on this tour. It's not like he was playing Maple Leaf Gardens or anything. He was back to playing smaller venues. Not as many people were as interested. I think he turned a lot of fans off and then gained some new ones. But I mean, this is a great freaking record. He put together an incredible band, and the songs are all great. I don't know. Would you consider them preachy?
I don't.
Yeah, I don't either.
No.
Yeah. I think this was really career defining for him, especially for how long a period. I mean, you got this one, Saved, and Shot of Love over a period of what, about
2 years? Shot of Love was 81.
Yeah. So we're a couple of years, right?
This is 79. Yeah.
Yeah. But he really delved into this. He was going to different kind of Christian schools, or you want to call it, or whatever, to, yeah. But just, I mean, hearing that song, You Got to Serve Somebody, for the first time is just incredible.
Hence my little name here.
Yeah, Zimmy. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I think this was definitely career defining for me.
And it's our buddy Larry Graves' favorite Dylan record.
It is.
Yeah. And it's funny because I was watching Mazzy did a video not too long ago, and he was talking about he got to see 2 of those shows.
Wow.
And he said, like, nobody knew that they were going to be, no old songs. Nobody knew that it was going to be the gospel songs when they went in. But I mean, Mazzy's like, he's like, I thought it was great. I mean, obviously, it sounds like it was received. Once people knew that that's what it was, then it started picking up pretty good steam. I mean, this is when he was picking up, like, Mick Taylor. Wasn't he showing up in the band at this point?
Yeah.
Knopfler's on some of these sessions.
Yeah.
But that's, again, transition. That's,
I mean, he put a great band out with is it No More Trouble? What's the name of the
Trouble No More?
Trouble No More, the bootleg series. Just the live performances on that are absolutely.
Clyde King on the background vocals. And,
incredible. Yeah.
But yeah,
we managed.
I jumped from 69 to 79, so 10-year
gap.
Yeah, I mean, you kind of hit it all. And again, there's 3 of them. You could have picked any of them. Obviously, this is the first. Most people would say this is the best. I'm a big fan of Shot of Love, which even Shot of Love isn't a full on. That one's got some like secular songs. That's not a full on gospel record. But Precious Angel, I mean, beautiful guitar work on that. I Believe in You is one of those fantastic tunes. And again, on the Trouble No More set, it opens up so much live when he's doing it with the female vocalists. The song Slow Train is kind of haunting.
And he
That
sang
song.
so passionately on those tours too.
Oh, he did, and he did, and I mean,
Yeah.
I know like the songs weren't preachy, but during the shows, I know that he was like speaking a lot from the microphone, and we talk, some of them like talk between like 10 minutes between songs.
Yeah.
Um, when you gonna wake up is a fast paced rocker, kind of like the reggae kind of man gave name to all the animals. My
Mhm.
band plays that. It's really
Oh,
fun to
really?
play. Yeah, yeah.
Oh, that's
I
such
brought that
a
to and it's great because
fun song with a cool meaning behind it too, but it's kind of fun.
it's
Almost
real.
like a children's.
It's a kid song. It's
Yeah.
essentially, for people that don't know, he's like, saw an animal with a furry tail, big furry paws, like he's just naming off all these things,
Yeah, I think we'll
and it's like,
call it or whatever.
I
Yeah.
think we'll call it a bear. I think we'll call it
Yeah.
a cow. And then at
Yeah.
the end, he's hinting that it's going to be a snake, but he never says snake.
Yeah.
And like when we play it live, like at the end, we just kind of like do like the tambourine, like it's like a rattle going off.
Oh, really? Oh, that's cool.
So it's fun to play, but yeah, I mean these records. And he's still, we'll talk about these. He's still doing "Got to Serve Somebody" live. I mean, you saw him
Yeah.
do it, which was that's a
Yeah.
highlight of his current show right now.
Uh-huh.
And I've seen him do it, 3 different times. Well, I've seen him do it 4 different times, every time on this current tour. But just a killer track. And I think "Gotta Serve Somebody" was in the top 40 as well. I mean, that one was a later hit for him as well.
Mhm.
And that's been covered by a few people. But yeah, "Slow Train Coming."
What's that? 1979?
79.
Yeah.
But yeah, like
Wow.
we mentioned, the Trouble No More box set, you got to get that too. Great. It's almost all live.
Yeah.
It's
Great performances on that.
great.
That's the one I don't have the big deluxe set of.
Ooh, it's good.
I know. I've got the smaller set.
It's
I
really
know.
good.
It's on my radar. If I ever see it, it took me a long time to get
The Cutting Edge took you a
the
while.
cutting edge and at a good price. I'll as soon as I see that one, I'll be jumping on it. James, I Believe in You is one of my favorite Dylan songs. Yeah, it's a beautiful song.
Beautiful.
Desolation Row versus Hard Rain's Gonna Fall. Oh man, two incredible songs, but I go with Desolation Row.
I probably would too.
Because that's one of my. It's like kind of tied for number one as my favorite Dylan songs.
I've seen it. I've seen him do that live as well.
Yeah.
It was killer. The second time that I saw him. Well, the second time I saw him.
I've never seen him do Desolation Row live.
Yeah.
Hard Rain's Gonna Fall. I've seen him do that. Favorite Dylan album cover.
Oh, Freewheeling's classic. Highway 61 is Dylan looking probably his coolest.
Yeah. That's tough. I'm trying to think of some of the more modern ones. He's done some cheesy ones too.
Oh yeah. Knocked Out Loaded, and
I really like Blonde on Blonde. I like that picture of him, that kind of blurry kind of picture.
Out in the Cold. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's my favorite one.
Yeah.
Yeah. And notice I didn't pick Blonde on Blonde, my favorite Dylan album. I didn't pick it as a career-defining album. It was hard to leave off.
There was.
Nashville Skyline is a cool cover. Very cool.
I do like the color on it.
Yeah. Okay. How many more? We got 1, 2, 3 more, Sam.
You have 3. I have 2. So, yep.
I picked 6. When we decided to do 7, the first 6 came to me in a second. And the 7th one was really hard. And this is the one I picked.
Okay.
I could not come up with a 7th one that wasn't tied with a bunch of others that I thought were could be a good representation. But I went with Infidels. And the reason I went with Infidels is mostly because I find this a great gateway album for people to introduce people to Dylan. And I remember back in the 80s working at this working with this young guy, and I was a Dylan freak, and I left the cassette of this in the work truck. And he borrowed the truck and had to go on like a 2-hour drive. It was the only music in the car, in the truck. Back after listening to this over and over again for 2 hours, going, this is a great freaking album. He'd never heard of Bob Dylan.
He knows about him
it
now.
Always stuck with me that, man, this is the album. If you're ever going to introduce anybody, I mean, great band. Mark Knopfler's all over this. Mick Taylor's on this. Sly and Robbie.
Yep.
And the great songs. I mean, Joker Man and What's a Sweetheart Like You, and the
Union
songs left
Sundown.
off of this, like Blind Willie McTell and that. I mean, it's just a great, solid album with great playing on it. And again, I think what album would have come before this?
Shot of Love. So that was his first
Shot of Love.
post-Christian
So this is
album.
kind of this is a pretty big comeback, because if you want to argue that those three albums turned off a lot of the fans, the Christian albums, this brought them all back pretty quickly.
Which is funny because, I mean, even that album has the song Man of Peace on it, which could have fit on those albums. Yeah. It's a great song, but yeah.
But I just, again, I think it was a pretty important album in his career.
And my second favorite Dylan album.
Your favorite?
My second favorite after Blood on the Tracks.
Oh, wow. Very cool. Infidels, you're up, buddy.
Well, again, this was mentioned a long time ago, and so I'm going to jump ahead big time.
Oh, man.
To 1992 with Good As I've Been to You.
Wow.
And again, similar reasons to, the reasons that we bring up a lot of these records. Like, it's kind of those questions of why does Dylan do what he does? Like, why did Dylan go electric? Why did he go Christian? Why did he go country? This is Bob Dylan going back to what he was doing in the early 60s on Freewheelin' and that first record of just Bob on the guitar and the harmonica. Although now you have, 50-year-old Bob sounding like he's 100 on the vocals. This is actually one of my least favorite Bob Dylan records. This and World Gone Wrong are two of my least favorite Bob Dylan records.
Really?
They're the only two Dylan albums where I complain about his voice. And I love Dylan's voice. And obviously this came just a year or two after that last Wilburys record, but his voice is so different even from that record. And obviously, again, they're all covers. I mean, he's doing stuff on here like Frankie and Albert, Blackjack Davy, Sitting on Top of the World, Little Maggie, Hard Times Come Again No More by Stephen Foster, Frog You in a Court, which I do like that version. But his voice, just something about it doesn't do it for me. But what makes this album transitional, and I mean, you could have also picked World Gone Wrong, which is a little bit more of a darker record of the two. Mm-hmm. I think whenever Dylan does records like this, I think it gives him juice to hit another high. And I'll talk about that here later on. But I mean, he does an album like Self-Portrait to kind of like clean the slate. And then he comes back with New Morning. He does a record like this, A World Gone Wrong. And then you flash forward and you have Time Out of Mind in 97. So it's like he does what he wants to do for 3 or 4 years, cleans himself up, and then he's back to writing incredible songs. And I think this is the album in those early 90s that gave Dylan that career high that he's really been on since the late 90s with the Time Out of Mind onward set of albums. I think without these two albums, this one and World Gone Wrong, the following year, I don't know that you would have a strong writing. I think you would have a few more clunkers, like kind of like Under a Red Sky or Empire Burlesque, albums like that. I think he would have probably put out a couple of those in the 2000s, but he hasn't. And I think he owes a lot of it to putting out these two folk albums in the early 90s, folk and blues albums. So very, very, very important album, I think, in Dylan's life. For me, it ranks very close to the bottom, but I think it really gave him new life going into the 90s and 2000s. Yeah. So there you go.
Well, I also think it served the purpose of keeping him in the public eye while he was going through a transitional period where he was having a bit of trouble coming up. Like, I mean, he put out Under the Red Sky and I can't remember the name of the other couple. There was a couple albums there that are considered probably his least.
He did Under a Red Sky, and then this was the follow-up to that.
Yeah. So I always think that those albums were kind of just, they, like you said, they were kind of transitional.
Well, he went to the 80s so weak, again with like Empire Burlesque, that sort of stuff. And then like, boom, he finishes the 80s with Oh Mercy. And like, oh, great. Yeah. and then he goes back into Under the Red Sky. And you're like, oh, and then he hits these 2 albums, and you're thinking,
Yeah.
what is he doing?
Yeah.
So it took him about 8 years to then come back around to Time Out of Mind. So, hey, that looks familiar.
What a segue.
Look at that.
This might be the definition of career defining for him, because like we were just saying, it was kind of like he's up and down. He's all over the frickin' place. He's doing cover albums. He's doing weak albums. He's puts out one great album with Oh Mercy. And then he comes out with this, wins Grammy for Album of the Year. Every song is solid on this album. I mean, Bob Dylan is back at the top of his game with this album. I mean, that you could argue from Blood on the Tracks to this, like they're both like, on pedestals.
Yeah.
And just an incredible record. I mean, Lovesick and Dirt Road Blues, and him going on the Grammys and singing these songs. And I think Unplugged was come sometime around then too, right? Didn't
94. Yeah.
Unplugged, probably not too
94.
far off of that.
Yeah.
Not Dark Yet. I mean, this album is just incredible. Yeah. And the latest Bootleg Series album, which covers this, is just absolutely phenomenal.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think this is like way up there in his catalog. And
kind of fitting that it's with Daniel Lanois, who we mentioned, brought him out of the 80s or finished him the 80s on a high note. And I know that they kind of had some differences of opinion and production and that sort of thing. And see, Rick makes a point about the health issues, and the common misconception is that Dylan wrote that album knowing that he was going through health issues, but in reality, it had already been produced and was out on the mixing floor when Dylan had that scare that almost killed him.
Yeah.
But it was like, oh, that this happened. All of a sudden, these lyrics.
It does sound like he was questioning his mortality on that album a lot, though.
It does, which is funny again because he would have been 56, so he wasn't exactly old.
No, I know.
When that album came out,
he had some premonitions or something because trying to get to heaven before they close the door, and songs like that are pretty deep.
Even Lovesick, I mean,
yeah,
or Highlands,
yeah,
they all kind of talk about it. Not Dark Yet.
Yeah, Not Dark Yet.
It sounds like a man in his late 80s, but it's just this guy late middle age.
J.C. Rice, another name I'm not familiar with. Thanks for joining us. Any new people here, it's awesome. Thank you so much. Just wanted to mention that Charlie Daniels and Norman Blake, two awesome musicians.
Yeah,
Nashville Skyline. Yeah,
I saw Charlie about a year before he died, and he mentioned Dylan being a great person to work with, and they just kind of were organic in the studio with him.
Did Charlie put out an album of Dylan covers before he died?
I don't know if he did or not. I'm sure that makes sense.
I was a big fan of Charlie Daniels Band back in the 70s when they were like really rocking.
Yeah. He was a great show.
Infidels was Dylan's return to rock radio. Yeah, good point. And he went on the David Letterman show and did
that version of Joker Man with like the punkers. Yeah.
A lot of great songs were left off Infidels. Yeah, that could have been a really different. Yeah, you're right. Wasn't Dylan going through health issues before or during Time Out of Mind? That's another thing about Bob was the choices he made on songs. Like he'd say he recorded 20 songs and then picked the songs for the album, and then you hear the bootleg series and the songs that were left off of albums, like Blind Willie McTell on Infidels. You go, man, how could you leave those songs off of the album?
Songs like that,
or at least make a double album. The Infidels could have been a double album.
Yeah.
Okay, Sam, you're up again.
Last one for me.
Oh, this is the last one. Yeah,
last one for part one of this little episode. So, again, I'm gonna fast forward to 2015. Similar to the folk albums, Dylan then decides to screw with our heads once again and put out this album right here.
Shadows in the Night. I was thinking about the crooner albums. That's good. I'm glad you picked one.
Again, the reason that I wanted to bring this up, so it was no surprise. I mean, it's no secret that in the early 2000s, so from like Love and Theft, Modern Times, Together Through Life, the Christmas record, Tempest. Dylan's vocal strength was doing this. It sounded like he was heavy smoking. It just sounded like it wasn't like Tom Waits, but it was, it was rough. And, you listen to the album Tempest and you kind of want to like clear your throat while you're listening to it. You're like, oh, excuse us, Bob. And then 3 years later, he puts this out after Tempest.
Yeah.
And you're like, where was this voice? Like, what is this? And he puts this out. He puts out Fallen Angels and he puts out Triplicate. So he puts out, and Triplicate was a 3-record set. So he's putting out 5 records worth of this, American songbook stuff. The first 2 really focused on Sinatra related tunes. And then the third one was kind of all over the place. But what it did to his voice and how the band played, and they didn't play it like big band. They didn't do it like Rod Stewart did his Great
That's
American
what's charming about those albums is the band.
It's the sparse arrangement. You got Donnie Herron on the steel guitar. You got Tony.
If you would have done like a Rod Stewart thing with the orchestras and everything, I would have been so turned off.
There's no big. I mean, on Triplicate, you have a little bit of horns on like 4 or 5 songs, but it's not much. Yeah. But on this one in particular, and Fallen Angels, it's very moody to me. It sounds like a hot summer night, like at some dive bar, listening to Dylan play these songs.
Yeah.
I mean, he's got stuff on here like Stay With Me, The Night We Called It a Day, Autumn Leaves, which is beautiful. And I got to hear
Autumn Leaves was my favorite song off of those.
Hearing him do that live. I remember I saw him the second time that I saw him, he did that. And he also does the song Why Try to Change Me Now, which is like, it could have been written for Dylan, the song. And he sang that the second time I saw him. That's what he closed the show with. And I remember my parents after the show said that was bringing tears to their eyes to hear him say, "Why try to change me now?"
Yeah.
But I mean, and he does that lucky old son. It's so good. And since this record, he's kind of kept to this vocal styling. And so, I mean, again, we've seen him live, and you can understand what he's saying live. You know, he's put out 2 non-Sinatra or crooner albums with Rough and Rowdy Ways and Shadow Kingdom. And it's just like this like restored his voice. And like there are a lot of times, and I've said like some of my concert reviews, sometimes you can hear the growl of like Infidels Bob it comes out. You're like, that voice is still there.
Mm-hmm.
But this collection of albums did wonders for his singing voice. And here he is, almost 83, singing better than he did 20 years ago. Yeah. So there's a lot to say about whatever he did to train. I don't know if he gave up smoking, if he gave up drinking. I don't know what he did, but it worked. So that's the last one. Again, I could have picked a bunch more, but
like a lot of people hate those albums. I think they're great.
And that says a lot because you don't like crooner music.
And I don't dislike crooner music. I hate the way it's produced. I can't stand it's a lot of orchestration, it's just and they all like Tony Bennett's and they all have the same way they sing. It's like I don't know how to describe it, but I just don't like it at all, that vocal styling. And Dylan didn't use that vocal styling. He used his own way of interpreting the songs. And the band's incredible. I love the stripped down versions. You get a little bit of steel guitar, just regular guitar and drums and bass. Mostly it's just really sparse. Yeah. And I think I love those albums. Yeah. Fantastic. I'm glad you picked one because I thought about it.
Yeah. I'm glad you picked Infidels because that could have been one too.
And I know, Sam, you don't feel the same way about this album as I do, but it's a top. Like if I rank the Dylan albums, it's in the top 10. It's Rough and Rowdy Ways. And again, for all the things you said about the crooner albums with his vocals, I mean, the vocals on this are fantastic. And I love every song on this album. I don't know what it is about this album. I was on a late night chat on Alex's channel one night, and Harry from Harry's Music Room was on, and he's a huge fan of this album too. And I think it's one of Bob's greatest albums. I love it. Absolutely love it. And I think it showed as career defining that at 80, he would have been 80, 81 when this came out, I think. was it 2020 or 2021?
That was 2020.
So he was 79, 80. You're just turning 80.
79. Yeah.
To me, this says relevance as a old classic artist. This showed that Bob is still relevant, where a lot of people are putting out albums aren't. They're just putting out albums. And I can hardly wait for another one. I think he's got another one in him.
And what was so cool about that record was obviously we were all going through, crap in 2020 with COVID. And we're sitting at home one night, and I don't think we had even met yet, Glenn, necessarily, but when he puts up on his page or his social media, he's like, this is something that we recorded a little bit ago. I think it's fitting for these times. Hope you enjoy it. And then he puts up Murder Most Foul.
That's right. That's the first thing that was released, right?
It was that, and then the what's the first track? I Contain Multitudes.
Yeah,
that was the second one. And I remember sitting at home and I saw it, and I jumped up in my chair, and my family was like, "What?" And I was like, "Dylan has another song out!" And he's like, "It's being released at midnight." It's I ran into my room and listened to it. It's the longest song now in his catalog.
Oh
16 plus minutes. It beat out Highlands from Time Out of Mind. And listening to that in my room, just like this, just listening and thinking what on earth is this? And for somebody 79 years old to be making 26, 25-year-old Sam think that's crazy.
Yeah, I just think the man I still think he's got a lot to give, which really excites me.
I do too.
Yeah. So let's hope we get a new album in 2024.
Oh,
well, okay. We've done the albums, career-defining albums.
And we matched on about 4.
Let me see if anybody else has got anything to say here. Knucklehead Rock. Good evening. Thanks. Enjoying the live chat. Thanks so much.
Hey, thank you.
Bob's voice is gravelly and rough on the Wilburys albums.
Yeah, but it was a different on those 2010 records. It was really, really. You could hear it.
I love when we visited the Bob Dylan Center in Tulsa last year, the correspondence that's there from George Harrison to Bob about the Wilburys album and the progress he's making, kind of getting them together and stuff, and sharing it all with Bob, going, this is going to fit here, and this is great. There's some really cool.
Yeah. I think Steve sent me pictures of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very cool. So now we are going to.
It's the unthinkable, Glenn.
Yeah, we're going to do the impossible. This is Evil Knievel. This is Evel Knievel crossing the Grand Canyon.
It's Jumping the Shark. It's Henry Winkler.
Yeah, it is. We're going to say our favorite song from each decade. One song. I don't even want to do an honorable mention, even though I wrote some down. No honorable mentions.
No.
Okay. This is hard, man.
And I didn't even go back to my old list. I just went what I'm feeling right now.
And I've written 2 songs down on some, so I'm still not sure which one I'm going to pick.
Wow. The 11th hour.
Yeah. Okay. You go first. 60s Dylan. One frickin' song. Can you imagine all those great songs from the 60s?
This is considered his peak by so many people. So I'm going to go my second favorite Dylan song of all time. It hasn't changed. From 1964, from his third record. I'm going to go with God on Our Side from 64.
Oh, cool.
I absolutely love that tune.
Yeah.
I've done a talk on this song before. I've used this in writing. It's just one of those great songs about, it's anti-war, about whatever country you're a part of, you think that God's
on your side. Yeah.
Yeah. We're fighting the just side, and the other team is no, we're the just ones. And again, you got to think Dylan's 23 putting this stuff out. Unbelievable. I mean, you have that great line. For me, the best line is, through many a dark hour, I've been thinking about this, that Jesus Christ was betrayed by a kiss. Though I can't think for you, you'll have to decide whether Judas Iscariot had God on his side. To me, that is the pinnacle of writing. I don't care who you are. That is just the most thought-provoking line that I've ever heard in a song ever. And I just I was thinking, I was like, with God on Our Side, that's the song from the 60s for me. Again, there are dozens out there. I could have gone with Desolation Row, like a Rolling Stone, Blowing in the Wind, whatever. times they are changing, but at the end, to me, that's like the pinnacle of Bob Dylan writing. So with God on Our Side, for me, best song of the 60s.
Wow, that's a great choice.
Yeah.
Alex, thanks for joining us again. Alex was with us last week. He's a huge Zappa guy and really helped
hey, Alex.
clear up some of the stuff where Alex and I were kind of sketchy on the details. And thanks so much for coming back.
Oh,
I
cool.
want to lead your way into the Zappa episode. That's awesome. Thank you.
Oh,
anyway, like Huck's tune. I heard it in a movie. Lucky you.
Yeah.
Why am I drawing a blank on Huck's tune?
I think it's on the bootleg series that came out. Not Trouble No More. What was the third bootleg
series? I'll have to look that out because I'm totally drawing a blank on it.
Yeah.
Visions of Johanna. Oh my Lord. How long ago was this episode? It was last Monday, a week ago Monday. It's up if you go under my channel and go under live, like videos, and then live, go under live. It's up for your viewing pleasure. Okay, let's go back to James Johanna. So anybody asked me for years and years what's my favorite Dylan song, it was Visions of Johanna. Did I want to pick that as my favorite song of the 60s? Do you think being my favorite Dylan song, I would pick it? But I didn't.
Wow. I'm surprised.
I went with Desolation Row. Mostly because I love that frickin' harmonica playing at the end.
Yeah.
I love, lyrically, it's just a great song. The imagery and whatever else is just, I don't know. It almost defines who Dylan is and what he became in the 60s. So that's why I picked it. I don't know what else. It's really an important song for me. I know. And like, as the years go by, I always say Visions of Johanna's number one, but I'll say it's like 1A and 1B with that.
Yeah.
Desolation Row. So
yeah. It's a great pick. I mean, like I said, it was on the short list for mine too.
Dylan was in a movie, Pat Garrett and Billy the Kid. And also in, what was the other one?
He did Masked and Anonymous.
Masked and Anonymous, yeah.
Which I just saw for the first time back in December with my friend Tommy.
I haven't seen it.
It's interesting. It's essentially like a snapshot of. It's funny because there were all these guest stars in it that wanted to be part of it, and Dylan's like this down on his luck musician who's coming back to play a benefit concert, but it's kind of like a satire on his life because he wrote it too. It's very avant-garde, but I think it's worth seeing. Yeah.
Ballad of a Thin Man, great choice for the 60s. Yeah, we chose. So, Alex, if you weren't with us earlier, we chose our career-defining albums. We picked 7 of them, and Blood on the Tracks was one I chose. So, yeah.
And that's my favorite record by him, too.
And it is Sam's favorite, so.
Yep.
Yeah. Wow. Okay, gentlemen, I got to go get ready for my stream. And despite the fact I am not a huge Dylan fan, I loved hearing you talk about him. Thanks. Thanks, Joe, very much. Have fun on the stream.
See you, my friend.
Oh, another one. One of my favorites again. Top 10 Dylan song for me for sure.
Great harmonica. Love the harmonica.
We could pick 100 songs here and you could be going, yeah, that's a great pick.
I can already tell you this episode is going to get me into a Dylan kick again. I mean, I go through 2 or 3 a year. This is going to be the first one of 2024 for me.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. Okay, 70s. 70s was hard too.
He had a lot of material in the 70s.
Oh.
And like we were saying, Blood on the Tracks is my favorite Dylan record. And so I was thinking my favorite song off of that is Simple Twist of Fate. I might go with that. And then I was thinking, no, that's not my favorite of the 70s. And we were talking about this album earlier of it not being a much talked about album, but it was a return to form. From this album, I've got to go with the first track, If Not For You, from 1970.
Oh, wow.
Obviously, most people know it because of George Harrison and All Things Must Pass.
Yeah.
I think Dylan's version came out 3 months later. But honestly, I could have gone with New Morning. The song Day of the Locust has really been rising in my ranks for a favorite Dylan song. But If Not For You, just a simple little love song. I love the the instrumentation. It's very breezy. I love Dylan's voice. I love the little middle eight, if not for you, the sky would fall, rain would
Yeah,
gather
it's a
too.
beautiful song.
It's a great tune. And again, is it simple? Yeah. Is it, thought provoking? No. But it's Dylan writing a great love song. Again, showing that Dylan can write a song like Masters of War. He can write a song like I Don't Believe You, but then he can also write a song like If Not For You. I think it's a wonderful tune. I love the production on this album by Bob Johnston, who did a lot of those late 60s, early 70s Nashville era Dylan records. But again, if you don't know this record, it's got a lot of weird stuff on it, like If Dogs Run Free.
Yeah.
Went to see The Gypsy, which could be about Elvis. Nobody really knows. But Father of Night is weird with like the little like the vocals in the background. But If Not For You, I love how breezy it is. I probably still will give the edge to George Harrison's version, but I absolutely love If Not For You. I mean, it's just a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful song. So right now in my life, that's my favorite of the 70s.
Wow, that's a great pick.
Yeah.
Interesting. I wish I had a bootleg of Arnold and Clara. I've never seen that movie either.
I've heard it's weird.
Yeah, I think it is. And it's like, isn't it like 4 hours long or something?
I think the closest thing we're going to get for national release is that Scorsese doc that came out a couple of years ago.
What will be really interesting is, heaven forbid, but when Bob passes, who's control of his the vault, the Dylan vault, what we'll get.
Yeah, because Jacob is he doesn't really talk about him, and nobody really knows if Bob is even married. Nobody knows.
Yeah, he's a very private man. There's no doubt. 70s, Idiot Wind, great song off of Blonde on Blonde.
I also thought about Buckets of Rain. That's a top one for me too.
Yeah, and Sam mentioned the song I'm going to pick. I'm going with a song off of Blonde on Blonde, or off of Blood on the Tracks, and it is Simple Twist of Fate.
Good.
I freaking love that song. What a great story song. It's just fantastic. And one of my heroes, Jerry Garcia, does a great cover of it. When you see Jerry Garcia band live, they always did that song. So that's mine.
I saw him do that the first time I saw him. He did Simple Twist of Fate.
Really, eh?
Yeah.
Wow.
Which that was a big part of the Rolling Thunder.
Well, I would have saw him in the Rolling Thunder do it. Yeah. Tangled Up in Blue, knocking on Heaven's Door. Really, a big hit for him in the 70s.
I thought Axl Rose wrote that.
Bob Dylan, you say? Never heard of him. John, yeah, I know.
John.
Eric Clapton played on a Bob Dylan record. You've heard of him. I only mention that because John and I will be doing the next one-on-one featuring Eric Clapton, not next week because I'm taking the week off because of commitments, but the week after that, Monday, March 4th, John and I will be doing one-on-one featuring Eric Clapton with Music Talk from John.
Not to be confused with One-on-One by Hall & Oates.
Yeah. I should use that as a theme song.
For you and John, maybe not.
I recently heard Hurricane. Hurricane's, great tune. Hurricane, the best song about Katrina. Alex, contrarian pick, but I absolutely love Changing of the Guards. Yeah.
That's really rising in the ranks for me, Alex. And so is, I love the song Senor too.
Changing of the Guards is on Street Legal?
That's the opening track.
Yeah.
16 years.
I almost picked Senor as my favorite 70s song because I love that freaking song.
Senor. Oh, it's so good. Ooh, I gotta listen to some Dylan now, man.
Paul Simon already did that. Okay,
yeah.
80s Dylan.
80s. Well,
this was easy for me. I think we've got to pick the same song here.
This was easy for me too. Again, everybody that knows me knows this is my favorite Dylan song of all time. Every Grain of Sand from Shot of Love.
Yeah.
It's just, and Glenn and I both had kind of like.
Let's just get it out so we can talk about this. That's my pick for the 80s.
I knew it was going to be your pick too because we both talked about this when we saw him last year. It's just like it's the most emotional part of the whole show that you're going to see.
Yeah.
This is what he has been closing every show with on this Rough and Rowdy Ways tour.
And right at the end, he picks up the harmonica and does that harmonica
It's
song.
the only time he plays harmonica the whole night. When I saw him in Richmond, that was the first show I saw last December. When he pulled out that harmonica, I went to that show by myself, and I remember just sitting there and like my eyes were like wet.
Yeah, it was emotional.
Because I was like, to hear this guy, 81 years old, sing this song, or 82 years old, I just it was just so
I mean,
gut wrenching.
lyrically, what it could be his greatest song written, and the studio version of it, his vocal is absolutely incredible. Anybody who says that Bob can't sing, how can you listen to that
You
song?
believe every word he says.
Yeah,
He talks about every hair is numbered, like every grain of sand.
yeah.
Every
Like every
sparrow
sparrow
falling.
falling. It's such a beautiful, beautiful song.
It's to me it's the best Dylan song bar none.
Yeah,
That harmonica is just it'll kill you. So
yeah. That's my
easy,
third
easy,
favorite
easy pick.
Dylan song behind Visions of Johanna
Yeah,
and Desolation Row. It's Every Grain of Sand. So
yeah,
yeah, just I knew we'd both be picking that.
very cool.
Foot of Pride from the 80s.
Deep
That's
cut.
Infidels, right?
It was an outtake.
Oh, that's right. 80s, most of the time. Great
That
song.
song is gaining a lot of traction these days.
Yeah. Did you guys see that interview of Dylan from 65? He really lets loose on his deadpan self while smoking away a joint in front of many cameras. I don't know if I've seen that.
I don't know.
Still can't find that damn Shot of Love on wax. Yeah, is it hard to find on vinyl?
I think it is, but you have to find the one that has the groom still waiting at the altar, right? Because that was not
Oh, yeah.
originally on the
Great
vinyl.
song, too.
Which I think I want to say Chrissy Hine did a version of that.
That's on, you can get that on the Biograph album.
Yeah, but it's on the CD, like it's on this. It makes it a 10 track set. But
90s.
Bob,
I wrote down 2 songs. I'm still trying.
Oh, this is one of your twofers.
One of my flip them at the when I get to have to say it.
Again, you start the 90s off with Under a Red Sky. I didn't pick anything off that. Then you have the 2 folk albums. I didn't pick anything from those. Then you go to 1997 with Time Out of Mind. And I went with the best song on this album, in my opinion, Not Dark Yet.
Oh.
Again, we talked about it earlier.
But it's getting there.
It's that when I first heard that, and he said that line where he says, it's not dark yet. And then he kind of pauses, but it's getting there. Yeah. I'm just like, oh my, like I had to send it to people immediately. I'm like, have y'all heard this song? Just the production on it. I love the guitar in the background, which I think is Lanois playing that guitar. I mean, it's just a perfect song. It's beautiful, and I've never heard him do it live. I don't know the last time that he did do it live. But just that opening line, shadows are falling, and I've been here all day.
Yeah.
It's too hot to sleep. Time is running away.
Yeah.
And he says, I still got the scars that the sun wouldn't heal.
Oh, the way he sings that line.
That the sun wouldn't heal.
Yeah. Oh, the way he sings that line.
Just then later, where to me, one of the most gut-wrenching lines, he says, he kind of yells, it's like the murmur of a prayer.
Nobody can't even hear the murmur of a prayer. Yeah.
It's so good, man.
That's a passionate vocal.
It's good.
Again, when people say Dylan can't sing and you listen to that, how can
I'm gonna start crying here, and Alex is gonna see me cry and he's gonna laugh at me. But
let's do it, Sam.
But yeah, to me, there was no. I mean, there was a couple of songs on this I could have picked. I mean, "Make You Feel My Love" is up there, but not Dark Yet. It's my favorite from the 90s.
Well, I just let you go on and on about that song, but that's my pick too.
Hey, cool.
Yeah, incredible song. Again, top 10 Dylan song.
Which is crazy to say that because again, people think, 90s Dylan is later day Dylan, but the fact that he's putting out quality material in 1997.
Yeah, he's still at the top of his game on some of these records. There's no doubt.
Oh yeah.
We go into the 2000s.
Yeah, Alex says if I start crying, he'll start crying.
Yeah, because James picked Not Dark Yet too.
There you go.
Alex picks Not Dark Yet. Desolation Row, Buckets of Rain, Tweeter and the Monkey Man. I guess we can use that.
I think Petty had a little bit in that, but it's mostly Dylan.
There we friggin' go. Sam, if you start crying, I'll start crying.
Yeah, it's okay. We'll cry
together. I'll start crying.
2000s. Again, this is when Dylan's back on that kick. So, again, I mentioned earlier his vocals are probably dropping off a little bit, but at the very beginning of the episode, you were asking me what are some of the early Dylan songs that I remember hearing, and for me, this song has always stuck with me. It's one of my favorite later Dylan records. I heard it the first time that I saw him, which was great because my dad was with me, and this was the song that Dad was always playing for me. I got to go with Spirit on the Water from Modern Times from 2006. I love that the jazzy little, the ding, doom, doo. It's just like this nice little like barroom shuffle. I love how he sings, Spirit on the water, darkness on the edge of the deep. I've been thinking about you, baby.
Yeah.
And then he also says that song. He's like, you ought to make a fool out of me. It's so cool.
That's a great record.
Modern Times is like, it's one of those nice little like moody kind of records that it puts you in to me, it sounds like summertime as well. I mean, you got stuff on here, like the levee's going to break when the deal goes down, Thunder on the Mountain, but Spirit on the Water is its own little mood. It's one of those songs that I would love to have kind of like in the background of like a movie if I was ever in a movie.
Yeah.
But I mean, I love it. I've got to thank my dad for getting me into that song. And I was really happy, that I've seen him do it once and that Dad was there with me to see it too. So Spirit on the Water from Modern Times.
Wow. That's so cool. I went with Love and Theft, which is one of my favorite Dylan albums. And I'm probably going with this album song because it's got a banjo in it, and it's High Water for Charlie Patton.
Yeah,
I just love that freaking song, and I think he is it kind of stolen from a Charlie Patton song?
His song was called High Water. Yeah,
but I just love the performance on that. I love the music in that, the instrumentation, and just a great song. I was tossing that between that and Mississippi.
Oh,
I love Mississippi.
I thought about Mississippi too.
And when you hear the bootleg series of that, there's so many versions of Mississippi. Like he was really trying to figure out how to do that song. It was very cool. But, so I went with High Water.
I've seen him do High Water a couple times.
We already know Alex going to start crying. Man in the Long Black Coat, great song. Sugar Baby is a good song too. I like that.
Yeah.
Loving this one-on-one. Someone said in another stream that they could listen to you guys talk about Dylan for hours. I agree. Well, thanks, Richard. That's awesome.
Wow.
It's a good compliment.
I could talk about Dylan all the time.
This might turn into a telethon.
It might, yeah. Our voices might get raspy like Dylan's by the end of it. I'm already sick.
We're in the 2010s.
2010s. Kind of a harder decade to pick from because, again, you have all the Sinatra albums that came out. So you don't have a wide, array of
Tempest. What original albums is just Tempest, and is there another one?
Tempest was 2012. Because you had Together Through Life and Christmas from the Heart were 2009. Yeah. So Tempest. So it's really a Tempest for original, but that's fine by me.
Because there's some great songs in there.
Kind of a similar style to Spirit on the Water is the opening track, and that's the one I'm picking. Duquesne Whistle.
Oh, what a great song.
Great song, great music video. If you've never seen it.
Oh,
Dylan's cool in his hat and his like trench coat with a cigar. And he's just walking with like this like slew of like deadbeat. It's so good. It's like
song.
It's like this whole like 1920s like turn of the century style, and then it kicks into that and then there's this like voice where you're just like you want to clear it for him. Can't you hear that Duquesne whistle blow? It's very much like it's Louis Armstrong.
Like in there,
Blowing like she swept my world away. Yeah. I mean, there he is.
Almost like he's trying to do a Louis Armstrong thing or something.
Yeah. You're like a time bomb in my heart. There are some great tunes on here as well, but that's the song that to me, that's the song that I want for like my opening credits of any kind of anything. When I walk into a room, I love the instrumentation. I love the brushes on the drum. I love Dylan's voice on it. People might hate it. And like I said earlier, this is the first Dylan album that I bought on its release. And, I've been just an avid fan ever since. So Duquesne Whistle from 2012. Yeah,
that's a really good record. I'm not going to argue with you, Sam. I picked Duquesne Whistle too.
Look at us.
And I know we're not going to do honorable mentions, but I got to do it. Pay in Blood is a great track too.
Very dark tune.
Yeah. Wow.
Long and Wasted Years is also beautiful on that.
Yeah, it's a great song.
And then the blues are Early Roman Kings.
Yeah. Okay, we're into the 2020s, and that doesn't leave much if you include Shadow Kingdom,
Which is covers of his own
which
stuff.
is covers of early songs, or Rough and Rowdy Ways.
Well, we're both going to pick something from Rough and Rowdy Ways. I'm considering you worship it. I'm going to go with probably the most rocking tune on here, which is Goodbye Jimmy Reed.
I love that song.
I love the track. He says the line, and like, what does he say about like the needle getting stuck?
Yeah.
About,
Can't play the record because
the needle has been stuck. Yeah. Which the few times that I've seen him on this tour, obviously he's doing all but Murder Most Foul on the tour.
Yeah.
So he's doing 9 out of the 10 cuts. And that song the last 2 times was just so good live because he's already changing the arrangement.
That too.
I mean, there are other. I mean, the other rocking song here. I mean, False Prophet's kind of rocking, but Goodbye Jimmy Reed just has this like feel to it that when I first heard it, I was like, ooh, Dylan's playing out a rocker. I haven't heard a lot of rockers from Dylan in the last 15 years. So that was really cool to hear that song live, and I can't say enough about that tune. It's so good. So Goodbye Jimmy Reed from Rough and Rowdy Ways.
I wanted to pick it. The only reason because it's probably my favorite track on the album, but the reason I didn't pick it's just, I mean, it's such a basic 12-bar blues song. It's not musically, it's, that formula has been done a million times, but lyrically it's just brilliant, and his vocals great on it, and the musicians are great on it. But I went with False Prophet. I love that album, and when we saw him in October, I thought he did that song so well. Like, just that's a great song. I ain't no false prophet. But, I know. I go where only the lonely go.
And I should say about Goodbye Jimmy Reed, he talks about going back to Virginia too.
Yeah, that's true.
That gets a big applause both times that I saw him here in the state.
I bet you it does.
Yeah. So
JT's in the house.
Hey, JT.
Putting my legs up and listening. It's my video editing day. Got her done. Way to go. Thanks for joining us. Man, the long black coat sounds like a Johnny Cash song.
Title-wise, it does.
Title-wise, it does, yeah. Sam's a big fan of I Contain Platitudes. Look at that. Alex getting all mean with Sam. That's all. Alex, you should be ashamed of yourself.
He should be ashamed of himself.
He should be. That's cruel. He's a cruel man.
He is.
Wow. Well, that wrapped up the portion of the show where we did what we had to do in terms of doing. So we can open this up now. We've been on for over an hour and a half doing this. So open it up. Just chat about music, what's coming up, anything you want to talk about, records you're getting or just got, or I saw Steve sent you a whole pile of stuff the other day.
Yeah, I listened to Sun Volt the other day, Straightaways.
Yeah, did you like that one?
It was good.
Yeah.
I liked it.
I'm a Sun Volt fan.
And I've listened to 3 of the CDs he sent me. I also listened to Lyle Lovett and his big band.
Oh, I love those Lyle Lovett albums you got. You got Joshua Judge's Ruth and
Large
that's
Band.
A great record.
Yeah. So, and then I listened to the Tim Easton record, which is really cool. It's very good. Mike Campbell's on one song.
Oh, really?
I didn't know that, but he sounds really good. He's kind of got like this kind of a raspier kind of voice, but it's a really good record.
Wow.
No, I'm seeing a couple of. I bought some tickets to some concerts. I am seeing Trampled by Turtles in May.
I love that band.
Yeah, I've seen them twice. I saw them over.
Really? Oh, they never come up here.
Yeah, because they're out of Minnesota.
Yeah.
And
they think they like the cold. They come up here and visit us, but
you would think. I know they do like Telluride and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And then I'm seeing in May. I'm seeing Margot Price. She's coming here.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah.
If Rod's still watching, he'll be happy, but he's a big fan of hers. Yeah. I've got her Strays album that she put out. Was it last year or the year before? Which is a pretty good record.
Yeah.
Here's a good question. From Richard S. What Dylan do you recommend for newbies?
Probably Infidels or Blood on the Tracks.
Yeah, because I mentioned Infidels, and that's one of the reasons I mentioned it because I thought it was accessible. So I'm going to go with that one.
Yeah. In terms of like his deep songwriting, though, I mean, obviously, like times they are changing, or
But it also depends on what type of person what kind of music that person's like. If they're into acoustic guitar kind of singer songwriter stuff, then you could do Freewheeling or something. If they like more electric stuff, or
yeah,
there's so much different. It's almost like the same saying about Zappa. Like there's so many different areas you could jump in.
Yeah, do they like country? Do they like rock, gospel?
Thoughts on the upcoming Beatles movies? There's upcoming Beatles movies.
So there's a his last name is Mendez, the director, and
I kind of saw a little headline on that.
He's gotten approval from all 4 camps, essentially 4 biopics about each of the Beatles and their perspective in the band.
Oh,
but they're
not
documentaries,
or they're acted.
I think they're biopics. They're actors.
Okay.
So I think 2027.
That might be. I don't know. I'm too close to the Beatles. I don't know if I can watch someone play a Beatle.
It'll be tough. I mean, did you ever see that movie Nowhere Boy about John Lennon?
No.
It came out probably like 15 years ago. It was about him like in the Quarrymen, essentially.
Oh, really?
It was okay.
But
I mean, it's very little information out right now about it, and all they said was, it's a project that's due in the next 3 years. So
I saw a headline on that this morning. Now that you mention it,
yeah,
I will see Billy Joel in April. Well, if John's still watching, he's going to be jealous.
Did you see the video that he put out, Billy Joel, for the song? I mean, he put out the lyric video, but then the music video.
No, I haven't. I saw it on you. That was on YouTube, but I didn't watch it.
It's pretty touching because
is it like a live performance of it, or just the studio?
No, it's the studio version, but it starts with Billy Joel as he is now, and then it cuts to him like from the early 70s, and then like through his career of like
cool.
It's like CGI essentially of him singing that song.
Yeah,
in like the 70s, the 80s, and then like the 90s.
Oh wow,
it's really cool.
I'll have to watch it. I want to know what you guys think of Marianne Bradley, acoustic blues, 17-year-old from Donegal. I get her music for each of you, but need info for that. I
don't know who that is.
I don't know. Rick, if you wanted to contact Samurai, the best thing to do would be go to Instagram. We both have Instagram accounts with our names. Like I'm Glenn Calloway from the Basement and Sam St. John. You could message us on there, and we can share information. I'd be interested in hearing that. Acoustic blues. Wow. I see Billy on Saturday.
Wow, it's this week.
CGI video. There we go. Awesome, John. I guess we're going to get a concert review coming up.
Yeah, because he's going to be with Sting. Which is cool.
That's right.
Yeah.
Sting's someone I never saw. I'm a Police fan. I love Sting's solo career even more. And I would love to see him. I've never seen him. Beatles biopics plan to be theatrical releases, hopefully not all on the same day.
That's the big worry, is that obviously like the Paul McCartney and John Lennon ones are going to do the best. It's like that's the biggest worry.
Rick, the other thing you could do is if you want to leave comments on our respective channels under one of the videos, we could share our email addresses.
Yeah.
There. That'd be the other way to do it. Yeah, wow, that's pretty cool. Yeah, I'm trying to think. I've been really into Pentangle. You ever listen to them? I think you'd like them. Really,
Pentangle
better than I find them much better than listening to Renaissance or some of those other kind of folky British folky bands, and Sandy Denny and Fairport. I like them a lot better. The guitar playing is phenomenal. Like Bert Jansch, I mean, just a great guitar player. It's really, really interesting stuff.
I've got them pulled up. I'll have to listen.
Yeah, and that's pretty much what I'm into.
No, I got what did I get? I got the recent Acoustic Sounds had who was it? Yeah, I guess it might have been Acoustic Sounds. They had a sale going on, and I got. Whoops! If I can reach it, for under $10, I got this record.
Under $10.
Yeah, it was
Really?
and this is the
You
180
Americans are so lucky.
So they must have had a bunch of stock. And I mean, I know this is considered one of Wing's least popular, but
I should
for
get
under
that and send it to my daughter's house.
$10, it just came in the mail the other day.
Can you still get that stuff like that, or?
I think it was a President's Day sale, so I think it's over. But no, I know it was Merch Bar.
That's great.
And then I got the recent half speed of Who's Next, which I listened to. It sounds great on vinyl.
Yeah, I'd like to get that too, because I've got an old Who's Next album that really doesn't sound that good.
Yeah, it was the 50th anniversary. But I mean, they've been putting out all the Who's records on the half speed.
Wow, that's interesting.
They also just released Quadrophenia and Who by Numbers on the same day.
I have my original, my OG of Quadrophenia, which I think sounds great. So it's in good shape. So I'm good with that.
I'm trying to think. I mean, obviously, I'll be on the chat tomorrow night with Rob and everybody.
Yeah.
We're just
let's promote that a little bit. Everybody go to Northern Revolution's channel tomorrow night at 8:00.
We're just kind of having an open chat. Yeah, we're just kind of doing like a now spending kind of thing. We had a big Valentine's Day one last week. I think everybody will be there. I know Jason was kind of missing for a while because he actually has a life. But and then I won't get into too many details, but I am hoping and I believe that I will be bringing I'll be with a certain YouTuber coming out of retirement in the next couple of weeks.
Coming out of retirement? Oh, Rich Strickler. Is he going to come out of retirement and do videos?
Could be.
Rich and I had a chat a couple of weeks ago. We went and called each other and
we did too.
Chat, so it was good.
No, I think we're still on.
He's sadly missed. I was going to actually message him, see if he wanted to do the baseball pool this year.
I think we're meeting. Let me see. We have. Okay, what day is it? On Monday.
Very cool.
We should be recording something. Oh yeah, Alex.
James likes the Wings at the Speed of Sound. Yes, Sam. What is happening in like a month? Is Alex coming back to Virginia?
Alex is coming back down. He has business in a neighboring town, but he will be staying here for a couple of days first. And it just happened to work out too that the record show that he came to back in the fall, it's on its cycle to come back around for their late winter, show. So we'll go to a record show on that Saturday. It's that second to last weekend, I think the 22nd or so of March. Yeah. So look out for all the tasty videos that will be coming.
Very cool. That's nice. The big meetup again.
Reunion. So that'll be good. He got mad at me last time because my refrigerator.
Yeah, make sure you have a beer in the fridge for him, a PBR or something.
Yeah, he doesn't require much, but he still needs something.
Yeah. Well, he's a lightweight.
Yeah. I don't know what you consider a lightweight. I will not even attempt to do what he's going to
do. I'll tell you one you should give it a listen to is the new Bela Fleck album where he did it's the 100th anniversary of George Gershwin's Rhapsody.
Really?
And he put out an album based on the song, and he does Rhapsody in Blue brackets Grass. He does kind of a bluegrassy version. He does called Rhapsody in Blues, where he takes the original melody and kind of gives it a bluesy feel, and then he does it with a symphony, the Virginia Symphony Orchestra, by the way, and it's absolutely incredible.
Wow,
that track is unbelievable. You should give that album a listen.
Speaking of,
brilliant, it's brilliant.
I remember seeing the Virginia Symphony being mentioned. I didn't even realize it was a Bela Fleck project.
Yeah, it's fantastic. Really, you should give it a listen. I'm loving it. And what's really weird, the vinyl. I want the vinyl. I can order it on Bela's website, $30 US, but it's another $30 to ship it. So for me to get it up here, it's like $100 for a record. And I go on Amazon.ca. It says it's not available till July 5th. It's only February.
Wow.
And then I went on Amazon.com thinking maybe it's just a Canadian issue. Amazon.com is saying the same thing, but you can get it from his website right now. But I would have to pay through the nose for it.
Was it like a different color
But it's
variant?
on vinyl. It's just, I would love it. I should just get it and get it sent to my daughter's place.
Yeah, you should.
Yeah, because I'm telling you, it's just a genius record.
No, Alex.
Okay, sir, did you just call me a what? A fada? What's a fada? Yeah, you're a fada. Whatever that is.
You know better than that, Alex.
Yeah, Alex, we love you.
No.
That'll get him off our ass. I saw Bale Fleck at the Winter Park Jazz Festival in 1991, I think. Oh yeah, awesome. Yeah, I've seen him like a million times, and I'm actually seeing him in August with his wife Abigail Washburn. They're playing at in just about an hour from my house, or
My
April 5th.
My buddy just did three nights in Asheville with Billy Strings.
No way.
He did. It was Friday,
With
Saturday,
Billy
Sunday.
What do you mean with him?
Like Billy Strings had a 3-night residency in
Oh,
Asheville.
you went to see him. He wasn't playing with him.
No, not this friend. But he did a he did a Beatles song. Oh shoot, he sent me a message and he did a really deep cut.
Revolution Number 9.
Yeah, he did Drifter's Escape by Bob Dylan.
Wow.
And he did I'll Cry Instead.
Wow, wouldn't that be cool?
And he said the stand-up bass player sang that one. Yeah.
Wow. Oh man, I'd love to see Billy Strings.
But he said the last night was super trippy.
Really?
I mean, it's like a Dead show.
Yeah, yeah.
I've seen him once, and I was like, "Ooh, that's something."
He's playing in Columbus, Ohio, in May. I think it's sometime this summer.
Ooh, Alex.
We're on the end of June. But you know what it is? I looked at it and I went, "Oh, that'd be a cool time to go down there and see him." But he's playing at a country music festival.
Oh.
And it's all kinds of real like heavy country bands. Like, so
I'm surprised he wants to be a part of that.
Yeah, he'll probably do a 45-minute set, and that'll be all you'll see of him. But
yeah,
if he was playing his own concert, Alex might have had somebody sleeping on his couch that night. But Alex is going to see the Stick Men Thursday. Oh, man. That's Tony Levin's band. He plays that, the stick, that bass thing. Yeah. And Pat Mastelotto is I wonder, Pat, you going to be wearing his hat? Yeah, drummer for King Crimson. Yeah, that's going to be a killer show. Al, you should tell me all about that afterwards, man.
I think I told you next month.
And you can buy me a gift from the show.
Get him a stick.
Yeah.
Send him a stick.
Instead of that cheap ass $14 record you sent me.
Yeah. Jerk.
You cheap fata.
But no, next month I'm seeing the Zombies again. It's the first time in 10 years since I've seen them last.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So who's just Colin Blunstone?
Colin Blunstone and Rod Argent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Wow.
I'm excited. They're in Charlottesville.
I wonder if they're coming around here.
They tour all the time.
Yeah.
All the time. It's
I
amazing.
haven't seen too many shows. I'm trying to see stuff that's coming up in the summer, but Neil Young's playing here in May.
He's playing in DC, well, like in Northern Virginia.
Yeah, Crazy Horse. I was going to try and get a ticket for it's one of those amphitheaters with the lawn. You can sit out in the lawn.
That's how this one is. Yeah.
I'm thinking I was going to try, because you usually can get a lawn seat for like $50-$60 or something. I was kind of hoping I might be able to do that.
Yeah.
But I'm curious what merch they have. If they have something juicy, I'll put brother up. Yeah. Yeah. I like my hats. Just saying.
Don't get me any hats, Alex, because you've seen my head in person. It's it's not hat worthy.
He's got a gigantic head no hat can sit upon.
That's right.
I think that's a word lyrics to a song. Sensei John in the hair salon.
You could also talk about a leopard skin pillbox hat. One of your favorite
Sam, for a
lines.
dude under 30, you've seen a lot of great shows. He has.
I'll do what I can, Richard.
Some of us are a little more stick than man, if you know what I mean. I was just going to say something about you, and I can't remember what it was.
That's
Oh,
nice.
it's really good. Damn, I forgot.
I'm
What were
sure
we just talking about before, Alex?
concerts under 30.
Man, I just
Really
said something.
strings.
I totally lost it. Sorry.
Thank you. I'm sure it came from the heart.
I'm old. What can I say?
Yeah. What can you do?
Nothing. So yeah, I guess we're just about ready to wrap it up here. It's been a couple hours, and everybody who joined us, I appreciate it. Sam, this was awesome.
This was a great time
with you all day. There's a million different subjects, and
definitely. Yeah, we'll have to one of these days when we get back together, we'll have to do a Dylan tune.
I think so.
I mean, we've done You Ain't Going Nowhere, but we need to do
something. Yeah, there's a bunch more.
Yeah.
Don't Think Twice, It's All Right. And yeah, there's a bunch we could do.
Senor, we talked about.
Yeah. Glenn, how many great concerts you seen before you were 30? A ton. I was 30 in 1983. And up until then, I saw Jimi Hendrix, Janis Joplin, Cream, Stones a bunch of times, Springsteen, Johnny Winter, the Grateful Dead, the band, a million of them. Could go on and on. The list never ends. I was fortunate to grow up and
you saw the Monkees too.
Become of age. Saw the Monkees in 1967. Yeah. It was a good time to grow up. Concerts, you could afford to go to a concert for $3.50.
Yeah, that's the big thing now.
Looking forward to seeing Tony Trishkin, Taj Mahal in March. And oh, wow. That's 3 great artists.
I saw Taj open for Van Morrison in 2018, and the audience was very loud.
Really? I've seen Taj Mahal a couple times. He's great.
Yeah.
I would love to see Tommy Emmanuel. That man plays a great guitar.
He comes around here about every year.
Yeah, have you ever seen him?
No. Pat Metheny is coming here in a couple of weeks.
Tommy Emmanuel does lots of Beatles tunes. Yeah. What's your biggest concert regret?
Tom Petty. Never saw him.
Yeah, probably not going to a Beatles concert, which I could have done, but didn't, because I always thought there'd be another year.
Yeah. I only had one opportunity to see Petty, and I was a little too young to make the trek by myself.
Yeah.
So.
Wow. Crazy. I remember not going to see. I had a ticket to see Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young and the band at Varsity Stadium in Toronto, and it was pouring rain all freaking day. And my friends said they're going to go down in the rain; they don't care. And I said I'm not going to go down there and stand freaking pouring rain all night to watch this. So I didn't go.
Yeah.
Then I think it cleared up and everything was fine. And yeah, that was a regret, but because I've never seen Crosby, Stills and Nash.
I saw CSN in 2014.
Yeah. Concerts now are ridiculous. That's why I pick and choose. If I can't get, well, I mean, I paid big money to see Dylan last year because I thought that might be the last time, and plus it was Massey Hall,
and that was you bought that from like a secondary person too, didn't you?
Yeah, $300.
So that wasn't the venue.
Yeah, but I won't pay. No, I'm a $60 concert guy. That's it. I'm seeing Danny here in a few weeks, Sam. There we go.
Yeah, he's
interesting concert.
He's sold out here. That's a little venue. It's where I saw Daly and Vincent a couple of weeks ago. I've seen dozens of shows there, but
wow,
he's one of the sold out shows there for this month.
I'm thinking about mailing you a book, Sam. I just finished this book on the Carter family. Will You Miss Me When I'm Gone? I think it's called. I think you would love this book.
I probably would.
And it's just dripping in Virginia history.
Oh yeah, Bristol.
And just a great read. I think I'm gonna mail it to you.
Sounds good.
Yeah. Anyway, folks, we hit the 2-hour mark. We're going to say goodnight. Thanks everyone who watched, everyone who watches on the replay. A special thanks to Sam, my buddy Sam. Thank you. I love you, buddy.
Thank you, Glenn.
And we'll talk soon.
This was fun. Bye,
Take
everybody.
care.